You're welcome back and many thanks for staying. Now, the General Secretary of the National Democratic Party, Mohammed Frimpong, has asked the incoming NPP administration to robustly prosecute any corrupt act that has been exposed in the previous government. At a news conference earlier today, Mr. Frimpong said the party will fully support the NPP in this exercise.
Two, we're also seeking change, okay? More particularly, we were seeking change, a change that NDP will take over or any other government. And we catalyzed the process. We were catalysts to the process. So for us, defeat is not a word, but rather we had what we term a change percent. And that change percent to us was 100%. So NDP was never, even though, yes, we are not in charge, but we thought that we had achieved what we advocated.
The NDP secretary asked whether the party is lobbying for any position. He was asked whether or not the party is lobbying for any position in the Nana Addo administration. The flag bearer, Nana Konadu-Agyemang Rawlings, I beg your pardon, could not deny that emphatically. Instead, she called on the media to exercise patience and not put the cart before the horse.
It's important for us to realize that the profession of change or the trumpeting of change was based on certain realistic situations that were going on. We went to the regions, we went to villages, we saw the impoverishment of people, we saw the pathetic look on children's faces, we saw the malnourishment that I particularly have not seen since 1983. So it is not for us to say X, Y, Z, but it's for us to look at the realistic situation, and then wherever things are not going the way we want it to go, we can have an input to say, okay, we were in Sheshe, we were in Chibedia or whatever, that this is what we saw, whether it's in the medical area, in the health, in the educational area, in food and nutrition, or generally bad roads or whatever, then at least we can do that. But I don't think we should put the cart before the horse.
Nana Konadu-Agyemang Rawlings there. Today they held that press conference in their office that's not very far away from our studios here. Well, let's move on to some other stories. Former president of the Ghana Bar Association, lawyer Sam Okudzeto, is asking Pres.Mahama to render an apology to former President Rawlings for the way in which he caused the party an embarrassment in the just ended elections during his State of the Nation address tomorrow. Mr. Okudzeto, speaking in an exclusive interview with Joy News' Favor Nunu, argued that the President-Mahama's loss constitutes a vote of no confidence on his leadership and advised the president not to be lured into running as the presidential candidate of the NDC in 2020.
Hello and welcome. We're coming to you from the residence of the learned, the lawyer Sam Okudzeto. He's been gracious by granting us an interview to explore the year 2016, very political year that probably goes down in history as one that will not be forgotten. He'll be exploring, amongst other things, issues such as the NDC and the way forward for them going into 2020, and thereon would explore how the Electoral Commission performed during the just ended elections, amongst other things, the new or incoming NPP administration and the extent to which Ghanaians' expectations can be realized or not. What would be the do's and don'ts for a Nana Addo administration? So we're here with Sam Okudzeto. He himself is a former president of the Ghana Bar Association. He was a one-time member of parliament under the Second Republic in Ghana. He also happens to have been president of the Rotary Club at a very young age, probably one of the youngest president. So, Mr. Okudzeto, In the first place, what do you make of the year 2016 in review as one of the very heated political years within our body politics?
Yes, it was definitely it was a year in which there was so much anxiety. Anxiety because it was an election year. Anxiety because one was not sure whether there was going to be a transparent and credible election or not. Anxiety because one was not sure about the electoral commissioner, because the way and manner of his appointment raised some eyebrows amongst many of us, because she was quite young, not a person whom we have heard of, and even among us lawyers, we were asking a question. Some know her, some of us don't even know her existence. And you know, this is a profession whereby we are so hierarchical. You know, we say, well, this person is a good lawyer because he appeared in court, he does this, he does that. That were credentials which were absent. And so there was, so why her? Why was she appointed? We couldn't fathom it out. So that then creates suspicion amongst minds of people that maybe he may have been appointed in order to ensure that somebody is elected to office. Those were part of the fear. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people, and these are the kind of anxieties that they expressed.
You, what then would be what you remember Pres.Mahama for? What key thing would you remember his administration for?
I think he had enthusiasm, but at one time I thought it was misplaced, because as I said, there was this obsession that I wanted to do something that I would be seen as the, and that's a mistake. It's an error, a very serious error in politics. You know, in English language, sometimes we use this term, we said, Rome was not built in a day. And I've asked a lot of people how they understood it. But I realized that many use the phrase, but don't appreciate the meaning of it. And I'd use a modern day example that I have, which is a cathedral in Spain. Now, this cathedral has been built for the past 84 years. The designer, the architect, has gone. Those who laid the foundation, they've all gone. It is still being built. I think about three years or so ago, the Pope opened a portion of it for public use. It's in the city called Barcelona. And I said, every generation has his fingerprint on it. So nation building, that is what it is about. Someone starts, another adds, another person comes and adds, another person comes and adds.
Is it not the case then Pres.Mahama has contributed his part by bringing in the infrastructure by way of the roads that were to some extent lacking, and some of it that required improvements like the circle interchange? Did he not then make some contributions? And would you not think or say that it will be an unfair thing to do by not putting him in the place that he deserves as someone who did his part and say all of his projects were misplaced?
No, nobody can deny the fact that he did work. No disputing at all about it. But what I'm saying is that he went on an excessive borrowing. And when he was told that, look, you are going to bankrupt the country, oh, I'll borrow, I'm doing for infrastructure, and I'll continue to borrow again. That's arrogance. That is not permitted in democracy. You don't assume that level of arrogance, because the debt is not your debt. The debt is the nation's debt. And because it's the nation's debt, it's the debt to which each of us had to pay. And so he had landed this country in fact, nobody is telling us the truth as to the level of the debt. Perhaps when the transitional team has finished their work and we come on, we will now get the figure. Because I remember somebody was asking the Minister of Finance about how much debt they owe in these roads. And the Minister of Finance was unable to give an answer.
There's conversation in town that chances are that Pres.Mahama may re-emerge as the NDC's candidate in 2020. Well, given that these are just narratives, what do you make of this ongoing conversation in town?
I believe it's part of the desperation of some NDC members who have more or less got themselves married to this concept of an individual, like worshipping an individual. And I think they better disabuse their minds on that, because it is not in the interest of the NDC. And it's not in the interest of Mahama himself either.
It is not in his interest.
It is not in his interest, because the vote that has taken place was a vote of no confidence in him.
People lose elections.
No, this is not just...
lost 2 elections
No.
and won the 3rd.
Don't completely misconstrue the matter. If you look at the election results, the first one, Nanado had 49 point something 9%, almost made it. Now, when the second round came, you remember that somebody went and bent the ballot papers at 10. Now, where was the ballot papers bent? Because if those papers had been seen, Nanado may have won the election. So he did not go to 10. They threatened him, so he did not even appear there for the rerun. So let's be careful what we are trying to compare.
But he lost the election.
But I'm saying that it was close.
Okay, it was close.
All of them, both elections, the results were very, very, very close.
But counsel, a loss is a loss.
No, it's not. It is not. I'm saying that, I said this one is a vote of no confidence. Because if you are an incumbent president, Nanado was not incumbent. If you are an incumbent president with all the state resources at your disposal that you are using to run a campaign of this nature with a lot of money and lavishness, and then 1.5 million gap, that is a vote of no confidence. So don't compare it.
What about the fact that he is a well-marketed product of the party? He's well known. He appeals to the youth. We know how he went into this contest with Nanado in 2012, and surprisingly, the IDB mantra, amongst other things, caught up with the youth. And then he probably did something right. He was contesting against a political juggernaut in the person of Nana, and still won against him, irrespective of the concerns you raised about 10 and all of the election petition hearing and all that. He won that election. He goes into government 4 years, but then he comes out bruised. Ghanaians felt, well, he didn't represent their interest that much, and therefore voted him out. Is the party wrong in any way, or will be mistaken to say that we want to put him forward again? This time round, he's done his homework, and he's coming to actually right the wrongs. You think that would not wash for the party?
Well, I have just expressed my opinion, which is quite clear. I said this was a massive vote of no confidence in him. And then if he is wise, he will remain and be a past president. And I think that's a good enough title, instead of making the error of being persuaded. Because I know there are a lot of people in this who are persuading him now and say, oh, no, don't worry, next time you will win. But next time you will not have the same resources. If you had the resources, you are unable to. Now, the next time that you are not going to have the resources, what will make you think that you can do it? And you are talking about the youth. It was the youth who voted against him. It is the youth. I interact the young people. They were unemployed. They were hungry. They were all walking around. They graduate from the university. They have no job. No jobs were being created.
He said he was going to create jobs in a second.
Well, you cannot
and
say...
Mind you, he was in power for 4 years. He was vice president, and that was Mills's leadership. He was in power for 4 years, and he says, in the next 4 years, I've divided my government into 2 bits. I will do infrastructure, and then I would actually do issues that bother on the economy, that would put resources in your pocket. That was really his campaign message to a very large extent, although he focused more on infrastructure. But then, in reality, that was his message, that the next 4 years would do the bit of job creation.
If you say you are interested in the youth are not interested in your interchange, your Nkrumah circle. Because many of them don't even pass there. What they want is food to eat, something in their pocket, how they can take care of their young children. That is their preoccupation. That should have been your preoccupation. That's why I say that it has a misplaced perception of what actually the youth are after. So you cannot now convince them and say that in the next round you are not going to create a job. It's like what I heard, you went and cut the sword at Koforido or somewhere in the eastern region to create a university after you lost the election. And you say it's part of your promise.
But he's still in power, and therefore he's still working.
You don't get the
he
picture.
He didn't allow the loss to affect him that
This
much.
Is what I say, that
sit in the back seat,
both him,
my hands are off.
Both him and his supporters have got the governance process wrong. You have lost the election, the people rejected you, finish, close your chapter, close your books, and hand over to your next person. If he wants to open the university, let him go and open it.
But what about if, for example, as we were talking about, some of the conversations then going around is that some of these commissionings and all that's happening is indicative of his intentions, which means that he's showing Ghanaians that, well, you did not give me the mandate this time, but I do not begrudge you. It is a choice that you have made, and that is democracy. I respect your decision, but I go on to work as president, and hopefully another time I may present myself to you, and you will then see me as someone who is not vengeful in that sense. He did not put his hands or his legs off the pedal. He's still working. And shouldn't we be happy that as president, he didn't go to bed, and at least he's responding to issues? He's commissioned 5 hospitals that are under construction. The GETS fund is already funding these hospitals that will come into fruition in the Volta region, Eastern region, Northern region. Few days to leave power, and work is still ongoing. Is someone like this not a candidate that you can market? In any ways, who in the party do you think would then match the image, persona, and influence that President Mahama wields? Who could be?
It is not for me to decide for them who they should be able to select. But then you see, let's just be honest with ourselves. No human being is indispensable. No human being is indispensable. Atta Mills was adored by everybody. He died in office, even before his first term expired. Mahama continued. He was able to select somebody else to be his vice president. You mean that the NDC cannot look around? We are 4 years. They cannot look around and find somebody else to lead the party. So assuming that something happened to Mahama right now, what will happen? So please, let's just be honest with ourselves. I think people have got misplaced understanding of even life itself. Look, all of us are transient. Anything can happen to any of us at any time. And we need to understand that. This concept that I will do this and I will do that, I think that it is arrogance. It is arrogance. Even you alone cannot do anything. It is those who are around you who can help you to do it. So my advice is to caution and say, look, Mahama, you still have a lot of strength in you. Find something else and do. If you like people in America, set up a nice foundation and pursue it. If you are honest with the business people, they will contribute to it. Then you can use it to give scholarship to the youth or even promote their businesses. That, to me, would have been a better investment than wasting his time now because people are trying to go to him and say, oh, no, don't worry, you will. Those people, sooner or later, they will start defecting. When they are hungry, they will start defecting to the power they are in order to be able to get their daily bread.
I'm sure some people would beg to differ on that score. But
they are at liberty to do that.
You are a learned person in matters of law, and therefore, as far as this is concerned, let's talk about issues that are implicit in abstraction. Assuming he wants to contest, or assuming the party feels that let's put him up again in 2020, what are the chances that he can or he is allowed by the Constitution to go ahead and contest? I'm referring to the 2 4-year term limits that is captured in our Constitution. How does that work around a personality like Mahama if he is to get back on the ballot for the NDC?
Well, you see, the 2-year term, as it is in the Constitution, did not anticipate that somebody is going to lose an election and then will come back again and stand. It's an assumption that the person is president, he stays for 4 years, he will stand for re-election, and then the subject is closed. That is the basis for what is in the Constitution. So it is not an issue to say that, as for somebody saying that, oh, when he can stay for another 2 terms. I said that one is completely wrong. It will not be correct. Somebody will even go to the court to go and challenge them.
Let's look at this again.
Yeah.
He's been in power for 4 years.
Yes.
And the 2-term limit captures an incident where you're in power for the rest 4 years. You then seek re-election, and the Constitution then provides for you to be able to continue for another 4 years. Here is the case of Pres.Mahama. His 4-year second term has been abrogated, cut short. He goes back as an ordinary citizen, and the NDC puts him forward again. Can't he do another 8 years? If
No.
you're saying the Constitution allows for you
I don't believe that is possible.
do 4 years
Yeah.
and then seek re-election.
No, I don't believe that is possible. In fact, if I said that, I will be the one person who will lead them to the court to go and say that it is unconstitutional. Because as I said, you have served already. You wanted to serve your second term, you were thrown out. If you want to come back and serve another term, assuming that your party allows you, assuming the people are magnanimous enough to give it to you, then you can serve another term. Because what you are talking about will be that, okay, then I can serve part of Mill's term, I serve another 4 years, then I can come back and serve another 4 years. I personally will advise Mahama and say that, look, you have left your legacy, leave it, don't go and spoil it. Because you might make the error of coming back, so people are going there, you come back the next round in 2020, and they will defeat you even more massively than they've done now. Then you've really discredited yourself. What is the purpose in allowing yourself to be discredited?
It's too risky.
I think it's a risk that I will not advise him to take. And I will not even advise the NDC itself to do. I said that find another person within the party and groom him. 4 years is a long time. Groom that person, build the party around him, and let him contest the next round. That is good for democracy.
He's addressing the nation tomorrow, and he actually moved this closer to the inauguration. Some have read meanings into it. Are you one of those who look into it as to why he chooses to do this around this time?
No, he has to say farewell to us. That's part of the address that he has to do. So I don't see what...
What would be expecting of him tomorrow?
Well...
What do you think may be some of the cardinal things he may touch on, knowing that he's going to be leaving office?
Well, normally if you are leaving office, you will first of all try to apologize to people you may have hurt or harmed or something like that. That's one point you should do.
You think he should apologize? For what?
It is natural. You can never be in office without hurting people. Yeah, both within your party, it's because the party had put their hope in you that you were going to win the election. You've lost. Many of them had put their hopes for ministers, deputy ministers, holding chairman position, and the rest of them. All these were hope they put on you. Now,
they lost all.
They lost all.
What about the bit about the relationship between himself and then Mr. Rawlings, and what you make?
Well, that is very important also, because I think he has so much alienated himself from him. And I think he needs to apologize for that, because he was the founder of the party. No matter what happened, nobody can deny that. And he needed to be accorded that respect. But I think a lot of the young people around Mahama had been rude to President Rawlings. And I think that is something that he should, on behalf of the people, should apologize to Rawlings for. That should be part of his address. And then, of course, as he said he's going on vacation, so he can just say that he's retiring. But even retire from politics. Sometimes that's the best thing to do. Retire from politics, because then now you become senior citizen. He's young, but he can still be senior citizen. Relative to some of us, he's young, because he's young enough to be my son. So that's why I'm saying that. But I'm saying that he can actually even retire from politics, and then see in what way and manner his energy, his enthusiasm, his vim, his vigor can be rechanneled to do things for the country. I'm sure, because you know that you've seen in America whereby even presidents are sending former presidents abroad as emissaries to do certain negotiations on behalf of them. These are some of the things that I would like this country to adopt, you know, to say that people should not just be thrown away and then just like that. That if they have talent, they have ability, they have connections, that can be used for the benefit of the country.
Appointments. There's been a hue and cry about that as to whether it was the right thing to do. Well, the argument is that he's still in power and therefore could do that. There are moral arguments about whether he had the best of intentions. There are also those arguments about process, which is that he's appointing people he will not be working with, and to what extent does he expect them to work cordially with the incoming government? What are your impressions about this?
I believe that those were very serious errors. Because you see, I heard one of the ministers saying that, Uba is in government, he must still govern. I say, no, you are complete nonsense. You are in government, you are governing. You are appointing people you are not going to work with. So how can you say it is government? That is not the issue. You were there all this period. Those people, some were in acting position, you didn't appoint them. If you thought that they were competent enough for your job, you should have appointed them while you were there. You know, there is something about the transitional law that people are not even addressing their minds to. If you read that law carefully, it says that 30 days before the election, not 30 days after the election, 30 days before the election, you are supposed to prepare and hand over. Now, let me ask a simple question. Those appointments you are making, was that part of your handing over note?
30 days before the election.
Exactly.
No.
They were not. So technically, it is illegal. It's in contradiction of the transitional provisions law. And the transitional provision was made because they were making argument that, oh, Kufuor did. I say, what you're talking about is nonsense, because Kufuor time, that law did not exist. It was made because people saw that there was a need for it to prevent government from doing certain things in the last minute. When they lose the election, they'll go and start doctoring documents and doing all manner of things. That was the reason why that law was made, to ensure that 30 days before the election, you prepare your handing over note. If you are re-elected, no problem. You hand over to yourself. A minister will hand over to the new minister you are going to appoint. He may be the same person, but he may be a new person. That was the whole basis for it. But when your government is defeated, it means that the incoming government can go and take documents, examine them carefully, and check them, cross-check them, even question you and say, this and this you said is not available.
So that for you, 30 days to the elections, all of these things about your government should have been
come to an end.
Compiled in that document
exactly.
And
handed over
to the administration.
Exactly. This question about you're still president, nobody's debating you're still president, but you are only doing what we call administrative matter.
But assuming Ghana is in a war situation as it stands,
we are not.
Who will act?
We are not in a
president-elect,
no.
And we have a sitting president.
The president was the one who will take us to war, but
so
that are not.
That he still has the power.
No. That's why I say you are misconstruing the matter. You see, when you talk about emergency situation arising, you don't compare an emergency situation to what is normal. That is a complete it is a no. It is it's a misconception. It's a complete misconception. When there is an emergency situation, you do emergency powers to deal with it. When there is a normal situation, you don't use emergency situation to deal with normal situation. That actually is the rule. So let's get our perceptions clear. Left to me alone, I would even have said that transitional provisions law should be amended, even to say categorically that 3 months before an election, nobody should make appointments. Because
you're calling for such a thing too.
That's what no, because just to be beyond doubt, I can read what is there now to understand it to mean that it means 30 days before the election, which means actually 2 months before handing over. You are not supposed to make any permanent positions and appointments. Let me ask a simple question. When they said he's still president, yes, there are what they call administrative matter. Even in institutions like Joy FM, you have a managing director. And let's assume that the board had told him that, okay, in a month's time, we've appointed someone to replace you. So prepare a handover to that person. Will you then say you are going to be making appointments? Will you? It is not done administration.
What about if there are some appointments that as managing editor you're supposed to make, but prior to the letter that will tell you that you're leaving office, you hadn't made this appointment?
Then you don't sign it.
Okay, let me just push this one through because it was already on the itinerary.
Ethically, it is wrong. So long as you did not sign it, you leave it, let your successor come and take it over. Because that's part of your handover. Tell him that, okay, this person is due for appointment. We've interviewed him and everything is okay. So now we are leaving it for you. You are not compelling him because he may agree to sign the letter. He may decide that, no, I'm not going to appoint this person. I also have somebody else in mind that I want to work with. So this is the way that governance is done.
On social media and in some circles within the NPP has been the argument that is emerged that the appointment of Abu Jinapo as Deputy Chief of Staff is not much welcomed by some sections of the party. What do you make of the arguments that some of them put forward that one, he deserted the party? He's argued, and many have argued for him, that he did not desert the party, else he wouldn't have landed such an appointment. And then two, the fear that appointing young persons into power may end up occasioning the sort of feelings that Ghanaians had about the NDC and some of the persons around Pres.Mahama, and the fact that their posture, the way in which some say they were rude towards Ghanaians and in responding to issues. Do you not think that young persons being appointed may create a challenge for the Nana administration, as some of his party people are already espousing?
Well, let's put it this way. I think that if the fear that people are expressing is genuine, based upon what we have just seen had happened under the NDC, then it is genuine fear to say that if you don't have people with proven ability, then there is a danger. But of course, it does not also follow that all young people are the same.
All right. So, Council, we have a few days more to swear in a new president, but we've seen the Electoral Commission, after being bastardized and questions being raised about their credibility and all that, come out with an election that had a huge margin, and the declaration was straight on. What do you make of the performance of the Electoral Commission and the EC chairperson in the just ended 2016 election? Given that in your own submission you did mention that not much was known of her. Her credentials were not out there for people to establish arguments on whether she could perform or not, but she did occupy the seat. How do you think she fared?
Well, let's put it this way. I had criticized her before, and I said her communication skills were not adequate, because there were times when she gives the impression as if, because the law says that she is the one decides on the way the thing is run, it means nobody else should speak. And that, I thought, was an error, because even if you are the final decision maker, it does not shut up the people for whom the institution has been created. So, the suspicions were there. The election has been held. The result is clear. But then also, one must credit the MPP, because people did not understand that the MPP had been able to set up a machinery that was able to collate the results from all the polling stations. They analyzed it, they added them up, and that had put the Electoral Commission itself in a quandary, because sometimes when they were delaying the announcing the result, that was the time the tension could easily have been created. But then when the results were being announced by Joy FM and the others, there were arguments by some NDC people who say that you have no right, it's only the commissioner who has the right to announce the results. And I say you are stupid, it's kind of stupid issue that you are raising because you don't understand what the media is there for. The media is there to inform, and they inform on facts as they have seen it. And the electoral commissioner is only the person who will finally declare the result.
So you do support the media in our
absolutely
to mention or call
absolutely, because not all of us are the polling stations. You were there. That's why you were there. That's why we watch your stations, to ensure that we know what is happening at each polling station. And then we also consider and be calculating. But even you have better machinery for calculating than we have. So you're calculating, we are watching, and we say, okay, it looks like this person is winning. We know the strongholds of these parties. And so from this stronghold, this is the result.
And the analysis that follows.
The analysis.
The swing regions.
Who
has lost which seats.
Exactly.
What that means for the national picture. I know
exactly.
That.
So we just got the whole matter mixed up because the National Peace Council was pontificating this question about only the electoral commission can announce, which completely misled people to think that it is illegal for a radio station to announce what the results are, which were declared at the polling station. But I think the end result is that whatever was announced was the same as what the parties have all correlated. That is good news for us.
If you were ever given the chance to serve in the Nana administration, where would you want to see yourself?
Well, you must understand that the young people in the political party are not looking for old people like us.
Well, the Council of State exists.
Well, Council of State is meant for older people. Yes. Yeah, Council of State is for older people.
Would you accept that offer if it's presented to you?
Well, let's put it this way. I am always counseling people. So if I am asked to go and counsel, that I suppose is something that I cannot say I'm declining, because after all, why would be the basis for my declining? If I were doing something else, that takes my time. You know, at a certain period, I was on the Rotary International Board, and also I was trustee, where I was traveling all along. Luckily for me, I finished those positions, so I don't hold any international engagement any longer. That ties me away from the country. So I am around, I'm observing, I'm talking to people, I can see things. I can even call young ministers and say, hey, this is what I heard. This is what I heard about you. And I don't think it is good for your image or for the image of the party. So calm down and take a different approach. I am sure they will listen to me. And so I'm here to help to counsel as many of them as are humble. Well, they don't have to approach me. I can call them. Yeah, I can call them. And if they are humble enough and I call them, they will listen and come to me. And I will see, because after all, it's their own welfare I'm looking after. It's the success of Nana Ado's government that I am interested in. Indeed. I want him to succeed. I want him to succeed even more than the expectation of the average Ghanaian. Because we have suffered for the past several years where when I travel, I feel ashamed. When people say, what has happened? Because Kufuor, I can tell you, I used to tease him. I say, he should call me, make me an ambassador extraordinary, not to a particular station. Because I was always traveling. Yes, I'm always traveling across the world. And I say, when I go, people ask me, you Ghanaians, what have you done? Your country is doing very well. I say, oh yes, my friend is there. Of course, he will do well. He has to do well. He doesn't have a choice but to do well. So my young brother, Nana Ado, this was what I want to be my pride. My pride is to boast about him. Because people have asked me long ago, do you think he will govern? I say, I am sure. I say, I know him very well. I've worked with him, both in the Movement for Freedom and Justice. I worked with him at the Bar Association. In fact, when I was regional president, he was my vice. And then when I left, he became the regional president. So I know him very well. I said, I have confidence in him that he's not the person who is going to go there and wants to feed his mouth and his family. His family is okay. So I'm sure he will wear. So that's the boast that I want. I want to boast about him. So I'm praying for him, and I'm praying that all the young ones he's appointing will go there sincere, dedicated, determined, to work hard, burn the midnight candle, and ensure that results are delivered and that Ghanaians will feel that indeed a change has come.
Thank you very much, Lawyer Sam Okudzeto.
Lawyer Sam Okudzeto there with my colleague Favor Nunu, talking about appointment and people who are supposed to be burning the midnight candle. We've got a few names, and I'm just going to refresh your memory on that before we do sports on the pulse. By the way, Firma Oseopari is going to be the chief of staff. She will be ably supported by Francis Asensu and Abu Jinapo. We've got Nana Sante Bedieto, who will be the executive secretary to the president. And we've got, of course, director of state protocol in the person of Ambassador Hassan Ahmed, and Eugene Ahin going for director of communication at the presidency. Saratu Atta is in charge of the president's diaries, basically like a secretary, and Atia Suleiman as presidential staffer. Their national security, we've got the national security advisor in the person of Brigadier General Emmanuel Ochri. The national security coordinator is former director of the BNI, Joshua Treme, and the Minister of National Security, Mr. Albert Kandapa, who would have to be approved by Parliament. On that note, Gary L. Smith is standing by with sports on the pulse. Please stay.